where are you living and how did you choose that spot? And so in Cascais, are there the same kind of cultural amenities, or, are there any museums or theater, dance, that kind of stuff? So, well, let me say, first of all, favorite thing, least favorite thing about living in Portugal now that you've been here a while? Hi, I'm Kat Kalashian, coming to you once again from our conference hall here in Albufeira, Portugal, where we are hosting our 10th annual Live and Invest in Portugal. And I am here with an expat. About 4 years now you've been here. This is Allison Baxley. She has moved here with her family. So raising a family, has a husband, trying to also make some money while living here, and going through the whole process. So where are you living and how did you choose that spot?
I live in Cascais, and
which is?
It's just outside of Lisbon. It's about 25 minutes outside of Lisbon and right on the ocean. So it's got more of a beach lifestyle, less big city, and it's really close to a lot of the international schools. And that was kind of what drew us there. Although we hadn't chosen a school, we knew that being in that area would give us more options.
Mm-hmm. Great. And well, so did you look at other places around Portugal, or were you just looking at schools and you thought Lisbon and any place that had schools, or?
We just knew we didn't want to be in a bigger city because we were moving from Brooklyn and being in New York City for 12 years. So we really wanted somewhere smaller, slower, just as a beach, more of a beach lifestyle and less of a city life. And so, yeah, it was really one of the best places that ticked off all that criteria and had multiple schooling options. So we knew we could be maybe down in the Algarve or close to Lisbon or Porto, where there's more international schools, but it just made sense for us for what we were looking for. It had more of what we needed. So
do you often make the trip into Lisbon? Like, do you often feel the urge to go to the city, or are you kind of happy to leave it at arm's length?
To be totally honest, I thought I would go all the time. And I do love to go, but it sometimes feels like a burden. Like, even though it's so close, it can feel really far. And then I thought, I'll just take the train all the time. But for me to get from my house to the train station is one commute. And then the commute on the train is 40 minutes, which is not bad. I've done way worse in New York. Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't feel as easy.
You don't need it.
I have everything I need. I do love to go in every once in a while, though.
Good. And so in Cascais, are there the same kind of cultural amenities, or, are there any museums or theater, dance, that kind of stuff? I mean, you've lived in New York, you know what I'm talking about, like going out at night, restaurants, the theater, the ballet, whatever it may be.
Restaurant culture, definitely anything and everything you need. We have a lot of ethnic food as well, but not like what you're going to find in Lisbon. It's, one or two options for any certain kind of cuisine. Museums, tons of museums. Everything from the Village Museum, which is the history of Cascais, all the way to art museums that are inside the Citadella. Like, there's a bunch of different museums all around town. And then as far as nightlife, I would say that's where it's probably lacking the most. There's late night restaurant culture because people do eat later. Yeah. But nightclubs, late night bars, it's a small handful of options. Yeah. So that's where I find myself going into Lisbon more often, is when I'm going out with girlfriends or when I have a really nice dinner with
something to celebrate.
Next to Cascais is Estoril, which has the casino, which puts on a lot of concerts and dance recitals and things like that. So there's that option as well.
And do you own a car?
We do own a car.
Did you from the beginning? Or?
We tried not to. We were just going to use ride shares to go everywhere because it is really cheap to use ride shares.
Yes, very cheap.
But as much as we were getting out and about, especially trying to go shopping and buy things for the house.
And with kids.
And with kids going to camp every day. We were in summer camp time. I mean, it was adding up quickly, but also just kind of a pain to have to call the car every time, like, and book it. And it was less walkable than we were expecting.
That was my next question. So I'm curious, my colleague and I were just in Lisbon, and I have not felt some muscles in my legs in a long time. And so walking up and down all those hills for a few hours. So is Cascais a little bit more flat, a little bit more walkable, a little bit more comfortable?
It's more flat than Lisbon, but if you're on a bike, it still feels quite hilly. A lot of people have e-bikes. connects for that reason. It's very walkable if you're in the center. Once you get outside of the center, it's not that you won't see people walking, but it gets very residential really quickly.
Okay.
And the culture in Cascais is, there's high privacy walls everywhere. You're not really seeing front faces of houses. So it's not like you can walk around and look at the curb appeal of all these beautiful homes. It's very private.
Gotcha.
And so once you're outside the center, you're just kind of walking on sidewalks with big walls in front of you.
not the best atmosphere.
Not really for walkability.
Right.
You can walk.
Yeah.
It's 4 minutes to drive my kids to school. It's 40 minutes to walk.
Jeez,
to
that's
school.
a big difference. Yeah.
And I thought I would hate getting in and out of a car every day because I hadn't done that for a long time.
Right, living in Brooklyn. Yeah.
We had a car, but we didn't use it very often. But we got used to it.
Okay. And so how is the family adapting? How are the kids adapting? Are they enjoying it? Was there a bit of were there growing pains,
No, my son was so young that he didn't really, I don't know, he doesn't remember moving here. He knows we used to live in New York, but...
It's more because you've said that
right,
than he remembers
we've gone back to visit, but he remembers nothing of being there. So, he is basically Portuguese. And my daughter remembers what it was like to live in New York. She gets a bit nostalgic every once in a while, but they're both thriving here. They're both, fluent in Portuguese already. Can definitely talk behind my back.
Well, how is your Portuguese?
It's getting there. It's tough because everybody speaks English.
It's so hard.
So hard.
You have to work really hard to practice. I've noticed it.
You have to make a choice.
Exactly. And tell people, do not speak English with me.
And I'll admit, the comfortability of just being able to speak English many times trumps the idea of me forcing myself to practice. But I did sign up for my language test for citizenship at the end of the year.
Congratulations.
So,
Let's see.
I needed a deadline. If I didn't have a deadline, I was just going to continue to take the easy way out. And so this way I have to start.
Yes. So have you used the governmental classes, the free ones, or are you?
I have not.
Have you done?
Typically don't work with my schedule.
Okay. Yeah, that is the big issue with
night
those.
Or during the day. Or with kids, it just typically doesn't work out. I've just been using online resources and a few digital courses that I bought.
Do you have any particular ones you would recommend to others?
I like Practice Portuguese. I find that their lessons are just short enough to not feel overwhelming. And you can just do 1 or 2 a day, and then they go all the way through B2 level. So if you really go through the lessons every day, plus they have a ton of other resources on the site. And then one of the teachers that I have used her course is Portuguese with Anita.
Okay.
And I actually partner with her a lot to do free classes for people through my blog. So, and she's just a sweetheart. She lives in Arizona and she's Portuguese native. She's just got big red fiery hair. So I don't know, you can't miss her.
Excellent tips. That's great. Anything? So, well, let me say first of all, favorite thing, least favorite thing about living in Portugal now that you've been here a while.
Favorite thing, living so close to the beach. I grew up on the beach, and I like to say that Cascais is basically my hometown, but in Portugal, which is ironic because I tried to get out of my small town for so as quickly as I could, and then lived all over the world, and then ended up craving being back in that same kind of small town beach environment.
I'm sure you're not alone there.
So that would be my favorite thing. My least favorite thing. Oh Lord, it's hard. My least favorite thing at this moment is not being able to speak Portuguese because I feel like I've failed myself in some way. Like I judge myself.
Yeah.
Because I know they're judging me. But they're actually really sweet, even if you just know 2 words and you say those 2 words. They're like, "Oh, you speak Portuguese."
Yeah. No.
No.
Slow down.
They're much more forgiving than other countries.
Yes, absolutely.
But I can't wait for the day where I can just go back and forth and have a full conversation in Portuguese. It'd be amazing.
Yeah. All right. So any tips, just to round things off, any top culture shock things that people might have to deal with, or top tips that you might help advise somebody to help them settle in if they're thinking of moving here or they're moving here?
Everything is very slow. I'm sure I'm not the only person who has said that. Everything happens really slow, from getting paperwork to booking services to, you hire a plumber, call a plumber and say, hey, I need your help. And
It'll be a week.
Yeah, I'll show up maybe tomorrow. And you're like, well, can you confirm? And well, I'll show up tomorrow, but tomorrow
you never
comes and
know.
goes and they don't show up and then they never show up. Like, things like that.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest eye openers coming from the States, and especially New York, where everything is so fast paced.
Yeah.
Everything's online. You can just click and get everything you need.
And the customer is always right. Nowhere
And
outside of America. No. Nobody outside of America cares about the customer. Like, I own the business. I make the rules.
Yeah.
Why do you think you're the
Why
one
are
who
you
can?
complaining?
Exactly.
Why are you complaining?
No, I think that's one of the top things coming to Europe. That it kind of takes a minute to get that concept. All right. Well, any closing words? Anything else you would like to share with potential Portuguese expats?
Just do it.
Just pull the trigger.
It's fun.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, Allison.